How you doing?
Not too bad, James. Yourself?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, mate. Very well. Thanks for joining me today. So we've prepared 6 questions for each other about our industry. So about our industry, a bit about mortgages, obviously about being an estate agent and stuff like that. So hopefully this will be interesting and a bit of fun for everyone watching. But first of all, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Matt Potter, the Mortgage Centre UK. Obviously, work with you guys in the Taunton
Yeah.
Property Centre.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. So I think we've got everything prepared, haven't we? So without further ado, should we crack into it?
Let's fire out some questions.
Let's go. So the first question I got for you, Matthew, is how did your last year pan out versus your predictions? So at the beginning of January 2020, how were you thinking everything was going to go versus how it ended up?
That's a good question, Jimmy, isn't it? With what's going on at the moment, that's a very good question. Well, the good news is actually last year, the business still ended up about 20% up on the previous year. So in that respect, it was good. It was about 25% down on what we was predicting.
Okay.
I'm guessing that's because we were shut for roughly 25% of the year. So like three months or so, we weren't really doing much trade at all last year when it was very, very strict. So yeah, not all bad. You know, as I say, we were up on the previous year, but not quite as far ahead of where we wanted to be.
Yeah.
Overall. But what about yourself? How same question to you, I guess. How's your year been in comparison?
So obviously you start every year, as we all do in all walks of life, even not just your work, but you always start January thinking you're going to smash it. January is always the time when you're going to get the fittest, get the richest, get the smartest, get the healthiest, all that sort of stuff. So obviously kicking off for January, we had our plans on what we wanted to do, but the same as you, we obviously at the end of March, it was stay indoors, don't lift a finger and keep out of the way.
Yeah.
There was obviously a tiny amount of stuff that we could do during the lockdown, which took estate agents into middle of May. So I could answer phone calls. We could, obviously send emails. We could communicate with solicitors to get sales through, but we couldn't do any viewings and we couldn't do any valuations, which are the two things that actually get us selling houses and taking them on.
So that will impact your business a few months down the line then, Jimmy, I guess.
Yeah. So it's not at that exact point that you really feel the strain of it, because the houses that you've been selling in January, February and March, those are still going through during that period. But then it hurts. When it hurts you is June, July, August, which we saw. But to be honest, as soon as COVID came into play and it all started to become like a real thing for us, I had real concerns, to be totally honest with you. I was thinking this year is a total write-off. How anyone's going to want to go out and view properties, have me in their house to, consider taking them on. All of that stuff is just going to go to total rubbish.
Yeah.
And actually coming back in May, June, it was flat out. We haven't really stopped since. We had a little bit of a quiet time in December. So it's not been all that bad. It's really not been all that bad as far as the figures and everything go. The main thing that I've found the struggle with is having to do stuff like this over Zoom and not actually. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know how has it been with you and your enjoyment of your job and stuff? Obviously,
yeah, I think the same. And just to sort of clarify, I guess, on what you were saying with us, it's the same. We had that period where it was slow. Just sort of ticking over, and then at that point, almost a similar time to you, probably somewhere September time-ish, it went absolutely crazy. And I think a lot of people that were waiting in the lockdown to come out and move, they all came out at the same time. And I'm sure you felt it as much as we did. It was very busy for lots of months, and like you say, it still is ticking over nicely. In terms of the enjoyability, like Jimmy, it's a bit hit or miss. It's difficult working from a home office, and obviously coming into the office sparingly, I guess, under the restrictions of COVID. But yeah, it's difficult because you don't get to see clients anymore. Everything's done virtually on the phone via Zoom. which is okay, but it's not quite the same as meeting somebody in person, which is, I know that's where I get my enjoyment from, is meeting somebody, having a chat, shaking hands, things that we can't do. So we do miss that side of it, I think.
Yeah. I think my main thing has been, I think there's some good things that's come out of it in terms of like the Zoom and stuff like that. It has made, you do only realize at the point when you do things over Zoom and you use video, video tours and stuff like that. I mean, that was something that we were doing at the beginning of the year, but when it came to March, it was like, right, we really need to do video tours now. We need to do virtual tours. We need to do everything that we can. So that's really sort of championed that into our business, which is great. But absolutely, that human contact, having a cup of tea with someone, all that stuff, you really, really miss, don't you?
Yeah. So, I've got a question for you then, Jimmy.
Hit me.
This is a nice one. It's to open up a bit of a debate, I think. Is should estate agents wear suits? I'm sure that's one of yours. I know that's one of your favourite things. So
yeah.
So that is the question. Should they wear suits? What's initially? I'll give you my thoughts, but what's your thoughts initially?
So this is something I discussed on my Instagram story the other day. I'm sure you saw, and this is something I talk about quite a lot, like presenting yourself. I personally like wearing suits. I like it. It's not necessarily whether I think it's what I should do. It's genuinely what I want to do. Yeah. And it's what I feel comfortable in. And after my story the other day and the different people that I spoke to, it's, to me now, what I've learned is it's actually all about what you feel comfortable in. And doing a job, because your job is very, very similar to ours, it's all about coming across well and coming across authentic and being likable, so that people do business with you. And I think if you do not like wearing suits and you hate wearing suits, you will be uncomfortable if you wear a suit. And when you meet a customer and you're in something that you feel uncomfortable in, whether that's totally obvious or it's just subconscious, that person will feel that. They'll feel that discomfort. Obviously, you've got to be careful. You can't go to appointments and things like that in your pajamas. But no. But I think like, I know you quite like wearing you like wearing your polo shirt. You often in like sort of flannel shirts and stuff like that, and look really smart, and looking presentable is always really, really important. But I think at the end of the day, it is really what you want to wear. It's what makes you feel good. And because that will come across to your customers. If you feel comfortable and you feel confident in your suit, customers will feel that and they'll feel comfortable with you. If you do not, and you prefer to be in a polo shirt or whatever, they'll feel more relaxed with you. And because you feel relaxed as well, and you sort of push that onto them subconsciously in a lot of cases. Yeah. That's my view.
Yeah, I think I agree with actually everything that you said. To be honest, I think from my stance, it's slightly different. Well, we've already talked about this just a minute ago. Most of my business is done on the telephone, so I'm not seeing people face to face. So I am comfortable in a polo shirt. I always still get dressed in it smartly, even if I'm at home working. Yeah. Makes you feel, like you said, makes you feel confident, makes you feel like you're working, as opposed to sitting around in your pajamas or whatever. But I think for me, when I'm meeting clients, I always wear shirt, trousers, shoes. One thing I don't wear, as you probably noticed, is a tie, and that's a preference. As you hopefully would say, I always look very smart, but the tie thing for me, it just feels restrictive, so I feel uncomfortable wearing it, and that's exactly your point. I think
that is if you're in an appointment or you're with a customer, and you're there and you feel that will come across to people. Yeah. And people, they may not know why it is, they may not even realize it consciously, but that just, something was a bit off about him. Like, it didn't feel right. And that's how you feel. And that's what comes across to other people. I think look presentable, look smart, but And the thing is, as well, is some people can wear suits and not look smart. Yeah, like,
I agree, 100%.
just because you got a suit on doesn't mean that you look smart. It's 100%. It's about looking comfortable and feeling comfortable and being presentable. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
My go.
Answered that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Mortgage question now.
Okay.
How much deposit do you need at the moment to buy a house? It's been changing loads, up and down.
That's a good question.
Right now, on the 18th of, is it the 18th?
18th of January, yeah.
18th of January, 21.
Yeah.
Go.
Good question. It does keep changing, and I'm sure people that may watch or listen to this will understand that, 1 minute is 5%, next minute is 10%, 15%. At the moment, 10%. There's quite a lot of lenders that will allow a 10% deposit. So if you've got 10% or more, preferably more, just because it opens up the door to more lenders. But there's a handful of lenders, 5 or 6 maybe, that will allow a 10% deposit. Obviously, 5% in a normal market is out the window at the moment. You can use 5% for things like shared ownership, Help to Buy, those kind of things. But yeah, the answer to your question, 10% as an absolute minimum that you would need. Going back to last year, if anyone, again, is listening or watching this, you probably would have been told 15%, because that would have been the norm then. But slowly since Christmas, more and more have been coming back to the market. So 10% is the answer to that, Jimmy.
You there was a little bit where you cut out for a second, mate.
Was there? 10%. 10%.
10%. Cool. All right, no, fine.
That's the answer. That's a straightforward answer for it. So it's good.
Yeah.
Just
before we move on to that, Matt.
Yeah.
Do you forecast that changing anytime soon, for the better or worse?
Oh, another good question, Jimmy. It's a bit.
I think that links into one of my. Yeah, I mean, my next question was, will 95s come back? So whilst we're on that, can you see it changing? Can you see it becoming higher or lower soon, or what?
The honest answer is nobody actually knows. We can sort of hope, I suppose, that it will come back. The government have mentioned, Boris Johnson has said that they will bring back 95% mortgages this year. They will be government backed. So take that as you will. The government said it. Whether it happens or not, hopefully it will. But we can't be sure, obviously, because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID and how much the government else has got on their plate. So hopefully, but we just don't know.
Just need to buy a house now with your 10% and just get your application in, get it done.
Get it done. If you've got 10%, then to be honest, if you've got 10%, just your best moving forward, because it might change for the worse. You might say, well, actually, now it's going to be 15%, and you won't be in a position to move and buy. So if you're in a position to move and buy, just go on and do it, I would say. Yeah,
cool. You'll go.
Go on then. Let me fire one at you. I suppose this kind of almost carries on from what we were just saying. How are houses still selling during this COVID lockdown?
Yeah, well, as we sort of touched on at the beginning, it has really been non-stop since May, June. Properties are still selling absolutely fine. It looks like January is going to be a fantastic month for us. I've sold 2 houses today.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. So, absolutely. Nothing. Obviously, we're on lockdown 3 now. That's not really affected anything at all, other than the PPE and the safety side of things of doing the job. But in terms of the numbers of viewings and new listings coming on, they're still selling absolutely fine. And for good prices as well. We've not seen prices, no hint of prices coming down or anything like that for us. We're still achieving really good prices.
Good, so still selling. So I suppose to lead on from that, and Jimmy, how do you find your clients? Where do they come from?
I would say the majority of people come to me through recommendation, whether that's friends, family, old clients. That's my main thing. And
they like your suit, Jimmy, I suppose, isn't it?
Go to that lad, he dresses really well. but yeah, most of them are recommendation. We get a lot of leads that come through just through like our branding and stuff. So people will come to us and say, oh, well, I've seen a lot of your for sale signs around and stuff like that. Those are always good, but majority of it is recommendation. We get loads through social media, loads of like messages to, oh, can you help me with my sons or my daughters or my mates or whatever else. But I love it that way. I love recommendations because I find that because there's already have that level of trust there.
Yeah.
And it just makes it makes it a lot easier for me to connect with that person. If I've got a friend of a friend or something that's recommended me, I can go in and give them the full advice. Sometimes when you're up against someone else or you're trying to win the business, you can sometimes be a little bit, sometimes giving someone the harsh truth and advice can actually detriment you. Obviously, I always want to give people, if a house is worth 200,000, I want to tell them that that's what it's worth and that's what you're going to achieve for it.
Yeah.
Rather than, but sometimes when you're up trying to win the business, it might not necessarily be what they want to hear. So they end up going on with someone else that is happy to tell them what they want to hear. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, I know exactly. You know, I've been in estate agents years ago, so I understand where you're coming from. People sometimes tell you what you want to hear as opposed to what the reality of it is. And unfortunately, a lot of people go on the market under that sort of premise, don't they, as well? I guess as well, if you've got a recommendation, you can build a relationship with those people quicker because you've got something in common, haven't you? You've got the same, same friend.
Yeah. Oh, how do you know so-and-so? Oh yeah, well I used to do this with him or that with them or whatever. Makes it a lot easier. So what about you? Where do yours come from other than us?
That's a good question, actually. I wasn't expecting it. That's not on my list. Mine is obviously from you guys. We work closely together, work hard. And the most, again, probably social media, the same as you, really. Recommendations. Yeah. Largely recommendations and social media. We obviously have a website, so we do get a few amount coming through there, like you said, with your branding and whatnot. But because most of the business, I guess what we do is very personable and obviously quite important to people. Once you've built relationships and trust and you've done a good job, you find that you get quite a lot of recommendations off the back of it because everybody wants someone that knows what they're doing and works hard for them and that kind of stuff. So recommendations and you guys are my biggest two, I would say.
Yeah, and I guess for you as well, what's different with you as opposed to us is your repeat business is probably more often than ours. So whereas a lot of people's mortgage term runs out within 2 to 5 years, say, ours, most people stay in their house for 5 to 10 years. So you probably get quite a lot of people that have used you only 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they just come straight back as well, which is nice.
Yeah, and that helps a lot, to be honest, especially in times when it's difficult, like now. If you've got a client base that you've spoken to a few years ago, you've done their mortgage, you've obviously got a relationship with them already. It's easy just to pick up the phone and say, John, your mortgage is coming up. Let's have a chat. Let's get it sorted. Easy conversation to have. Lots to talk about at the moment. What's going on? So again, like you say, repeat business is super important, I suppose, to any business, but to ours especially. Yeah,
fine. Shall I go next?
Go on then.
Obviously, I know we touched on this a little bit on our first question about how the year's gone. Yeah. But how has COVID affected the way that you do business? So what has been the main things, main challenges, stuff like that that's been for you?
The main thing is getting used to Zoom. Technology, it's changed, doesn't it? But I think, like we sort of touched on it earlier, like the main thing for me is I used to go to clients' homes. So we would do the first initial appointment maybe at the office or over the phone, and then go to clients' homes. Again, it's just building that relationship, sit and have a cup of tea. And go through it. We obviously I've been to clients' home probably for over a year now, or nearly a year. So it's all gone very much remote. I'm obviously working remotely at the moment, not even in the office with you at the moment. So it's all gone remote. So telephone business and Zoom business, which I've never used Zoom obviously until all of this. So now I do a lot of the conversations over Zoom, which is nice because you still get that a little bit of face to face. You can put a face to the name, and obviously the clients can put a face to the name as well. It's just not quite the same as literally going and meeting someone, having a cup of tea and a chat, is it? But that's the main things, really. I suppose it's all gone remote instead of face to face.
Yeah. What have you got for me? Have you got one more for me?
Yeah, I think so. Let's have a look. Well, no, there's two more actually. So the one, I know you're excited, aren't you? So, what's your favourite part of being an estate agent? What makes it excitable for you?
So it's going to sound really cheesy now. Oh, I love it all. It's all great, but it is. But you definitely have your favourite bits. From the whole process, starting from the point that we do initial consultation with the valuation, and I'm actually telling the customer what I'm going to do for them, all the way up to completion. I would say that the two main favourite bits are negotiating the actual deal, because that's a really, really exciting moment for everyone involved, because you got someone who's going to buy they're buying a home. So that's going to be their property that they're going to secure and eventually live in when the sale goes through. I'm doing that's really why people, choose me to sell their house is to actually get the deal. That's sort of like the main bit.
Yeah.
So I get a real kick out of it. And then the seller has sold their house. So that's a really, really exciting bit. And then the next bit is obviously completion, where we get to make up the boxes. I think I've shown them a few times on my social media and stuff, the little home moving boxes with some beers and champagne and stuff in them, getting all that ready, giving people their keys, the big moving day. When the job's done, that's the best bit. But
I've seen boxes, Jimmy. It's a nice touch, I think, for that.
I think so.
It's that personable touch, goes the extra mile. It shows that you're not just there to put a house on the market, sell it, and forget. You actually, you care about your clients, and I'm guessing we were talking about it just now, but you are looking maybe for the future, repeat business. You want to build those good relationships and do a good job. What's the worst part though, Jimmy? I'm going to just flip it on its head for you.
Traffic. I hate being stuck in traffic for appointments. Probably, yeah. Obviously, it's not all roses. It's going from the point that the sale agrees all the way to completion. That's a very stressful part. And people of buyers and sellers sometimes have different ideas of when they might want to complete, or obviously legal work brings up things that we just don't know about, and that can cause people to have concerns and dealing with that, and it's really, really stressful. And I think having the box at the end with some booze in it and your keys, I think is, like you say, it is a nice touch, because I think people do get a bit annoyed with me. I'm the point where all the stress goes in that little thing. So I think people started to hate me in that little bit. So the box of booze at the end, I think, just flattens those rough edges at the end. So, but yeah, traffic and, just messy conveyancing sort of going through.
Yeah, I find the conveyancing bit is probably the
just long as bit. It's just so long.
Polite way.
I got my last one for you. Why would someone use Matt.Potter instead of going to their bank direct?
Good question. At the moment, it almost answers itself. We're in a massive pandemic. You may or may not be able to go to your bank for an appointment because it's face to face. If you can, you're likely looking to be waiting for weeks until you can get an appointment, as opposed to straight away. If you can get a telephone appointment, brilliant. But again, it's waiting for that time that you can actually get it. And things moving. And most people want to get the mortgage bit done and start, thinking about what they're going to buy, and buying beds and all this sort of other stuff. So that's one thing. Also, we've got over 90 plus mortgage lenders that we can look at, so thousands of products. So instead of having, instead of having to go around your banks and find out, we'll do all of that. So we search everything. The main thing as well is you could go to your bank and they will decline you. And you then walk away. I've had this a lot. You walk out of the bank and you think, oh, I can't get a mortgage. And it's a shame. Then they speak to somebody like yourself. You might then say, well, have a chat with Matt. You never know. And then actually they can get a mortgage. They just need to go to a different bank, which they didn't know about because they haven't come through a broker. So that's, the main thing is if you come through us, you will know if you can't get a mortgage, you can't get a mortgage.
Yeah.
Otherwise you can, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So that's the main thing, and you don't have to be like trying to work it all out yourself, because it is a very complex market, especially with COVID at the moment.
Yeah, but I think as well, like mainly for young people, first time buyers, not necessarily young, but first time buyers just generally. And something I get this wrong myself is I think I'm really ignorant. I think people understand how this all works. And you really need to speak to an estate agent or someone like yourself to really find out, because you'd be the amount of stuff. I was speaking to someone that we obviously referred to you the other day, and they're looking at one option when there's so many other options that they can go down, and the option that they've got, they're not really that happy with, but because that's the only option they think they've got, that's the only option they're going down. And I think it's until you speak to someone like me and then eventually someone like you actually go, actually, there's much better options out there that I can take that are perhaps easier and can be organised fully by you. It just makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I would say 95%, that's not an exaggeration, of our business is first time buyers. So I would like to think we're very good. In fact, I know I've had feedback from people saying how well it's been explained, the whole mortgage process and everything else. And they've been to other people, other advisors as well, and they still come to me and say, well done, you've explained it so well, we understand what we're doing, whereas before we didn't. And like you said, I think it's just having the foresight to understand that these people, like you said, don't know. And it's not just about
I still know. I explain things to people and they're kind of like, what are you talking about? And I still think, you don't do this every day like me. I need to, it's an easy trap to fall into, but absolutely.
Finding out the jargon and trying to speak it almost in layman's terms. And I am quite, I'm like that anyway.
Quite simple.
Not simple, but that's how I would talk like normally. I don't try and be anything more than what I am. So I do speak very layman terms to people so that they understand what's going on. Otherwise, you could do a mortgage for them halfway down the line, they change their mind because they didn't actually know what they were getting into. So it's really important that they understand it from a very basic point of view, as opposed to trying to at a high level, because it just confuses, especially like you say, young first time buyers haven't got a clue. But that's fine though, isn't it? That's fine if you've got, if you don't know, how else are you going to know? They didn't teach it at school, do they? So and actually I like that, to be honest, Jimmy, they're my favorite clients, because I feel like I've given them value, because they came to me not knowing, and they know that I like to try and make them not a mortgage expert, but competent in mortgages themselves when they've bought their house. So they can go away and explain it to their friends as well as I can explain it to them, because they now understand it. And that's my kind of goal in my head. I want to make sure they completely understand the process.
So that's what you would say your favourite part of being a mortgage advisor is?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly that. Helping people get their home. It's a nice feeling, like you said, that bit where it's exchanged or the mortgage has been offered, because at that point my job's kind of almost done. So once it's kind of been offered, it's like a hoorah moment. They can definitely move in as long as there's no complications on your side. And that's the nicest part. But just adding value to people, and they can come away really, really thinking that was worthwhile. And that's the best bit.
Yeah. That does sound really nice, Matt, to be honest with you. That sounds lovely when you put it like that.
Yeah, I don't want to sound too wet, but that's how I like to view my clients. So last question for you. One piece of advice for somebody that wanted to become an estate agent. What would your biggest, but I'll tell you what, let's change it slightly. what would you say, piece of advice, but then maybe a couple of pros and a couple of cons so that people understand the whole, we kind of touched on it, but.
So, so if you want to become an estate agent, I think the main thing to do, being an estate agent is about putting yourself out there, being someone that can go into scenarios, and you're a bit of a go-getter. You can, I'm trying to think of the word, is you can go into scenarios, and you're the person that can step up. So I think for me, if I had a new person that wanted to come into the industry, what would really impress me was if someone approached me directly. Obviously with COVID about and stuff, you can't just walk into people's offices and things, but generally speaking, if you want to become an estate agent, I think it's important to put yourself out there by going into an estate agent's office, dressing well and something you feel comfortable in, and looking smart, bringing in your CV, speaking to the manager or director or whoever's there, and saying, I'm really interested in getting to this industry. I would really love an interview with you. I think that's the number one way to get yourself an interview. And in most cases, estate agents are helpful people. If I didn't have a vacancy available at all, I probably would be able to recommend somewhere else that I know is a bit short-staffed and probably could do with someone. So we will help. But I think that's the main thing about getting yourself an interview. Some pros and cons. The pros of being an estate agent are it's very rewarding. There's loads of mini wins everywhere. So, for example, when you book your valuations in, that's a little win because you're going to go and meet a potential customer. So that's a win. And then you get the new listing, and that's a win. You've got this new listing that you can sell, and then you get a viewing on it, and you've won that as well. And then you sell it, and then you've won that, and then it's completed, and that's another win. So there's loads of wins in estate agency, and it's almost like a fun game. It's a very serious game, of course.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a game. It's a bit of a game to it. There's lots of little points here and there that you can win, which is, there's loads of achievement in it. Cons are it can sap a lot of energy out of you, in that some days are really, really long, and I find myself, I can have days where I'm really quiet and I'm on top of everything and I've not really got much on. And then overnight, I can wake up in the morning and I've got a list as long as my arm, and I'm going to be working flat out, non-stop, all over the place. And those ups and downs can take it out of you. But I'm really biased, and it's hard for me to give you all the cons, because the flip side of that is that, there's loads of reward. So I know there's not many, I can't think of any more cons than that. It's hard. It's hard work. It's hard work is it? But the reward is great, so.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, like you say, ups and downs, but I think if there's more rewards or more positives than there are negatives, then overall it's a good experience. And there's, like you say, there's not many negatives, and there are a lot of positives, aren't there?
Yeah, it's not for everyone though. It really isn't. I mean, as I said, you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to be someone that can communicate, and someone that can start a conversation and build relationships with people. And if you're a bit of an introvert and you like keeping yourself to yourself, the likelihood is you're probably going to hate it. It takes a certain type of person to do it. I chat for England and rarely shut up, so it's ideal for me.
Yeah, I think this is supposed to be a 10-minute call.
Yeah. It's getting dark outside, isn't it? Sorry.
No, I'm just joking. It's funny. Cool. I think, well, for me, that's all the questions. So that's, I've got nothing else to add, really.
Yeah, no, that's fine, mate. No, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. I think it's worthwhile. Hopefully it's interesting for people watching, and not only that, hopefully it takes some value, some really good stuff from you there about, percentage of mortgages and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully, as well as a bit interesting and a bit of a laugh, it should be quite valuable as well. Yeah,
and hopefully, again, if it's something that people are keen to look at, we could do maybe once a month. Just keep people updated on how things are going, especially at the moment. See what action we get to it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, keen for that.
Cool. All right then, Jimmy, back to work.
All right, yeah. All right, mate.
Nice
Nice
one.
to see you.
Yeah, you
Stay
too.
safe.
Bye.